Most people will tell you there are three kinds of wine: red, white, and rosé. But there is a fourth, and it's older than the other three. It's called orange wine, or amber wine, or skin contact wine. Three names for the same beautiful and slightly weird thing: a wine the planet has been making for about 8,000 years, and then almost completely forgot how to make, and then quietly remembered about 30 years ago because of two stubborn guys in a tiny village near the Slovenian border. If you've walked into a natural wine bar in the last few years and seen something glowing copper orange on the by the glass list and thought, what on earth is that? This video is for you. We are going to do the whole story, where it comes from, how it's made, why it disappeared and why it's back, and whether you should be drinking it or not. Let's go for your ultimate guide to orange wine. Let's get the definition out of the way because it's deceptively simple. To make red wine, you take red grapes and ferment the juice with the skins. The skins give red wine its color, its tannin, its grip. To make white wine, you take white grapes and you press the skins out immediately. Just the clear juice goes into the tank. That's why white wine is pale, crisp, and lacks any chewy texture. Orange wine is the third move. You take white grapes and you do the red wine thing. You leave the juice in contact with the skins for days, for weeks, and sometimes for months. And what comes out is a white wine that's been transformed. Deeper in color, full of tannin, with structure, grip, and texture you've never tasted in a white wine before. That's it. That's the whole secret. Orange wine isn't a grape variety, it's not a region, it's not even strictly a category in most wine laws. It's a technique and a deeply ancient one. White grapes treated like reds. The color you see in the glass, anywhere from pale gold to deep amber to almost copper, comes entirely from how long the juice stays in contact with the skins. A few days of contact and you have a gentle gold. A few months, a color that genuinely glows. Quick name nerdery because there is a small civil war over what to call this stuff. The word orange wine is surprisingly recent. It was coined in the early 2000s by a British wine importer named David Harvey, looking for an easy way to describe these strange amber-colored bottles he was bringing in from northern Italy. It was catchy, it stuck, sommeliers loved it, and the natural wine scene ran with it. And here we are. But there is a problem. In Georgia, the country where this style was invented 8,000 years ago, they don't call it orange, they call it amber wine. And they have an excellent reason for that. The word orange already means a citrus fruit, and the last thing they want is people thinking this is some kind of fruit wine made from oranges. Fair point. So you'll hear the three names. Orange wine is what most of the world calls it, then amber wine is what the Georgians, the inventor, prefer, and skin contact wine is what producers themselves often use because it's the most accurate. All three mean the same thing. I'll mostly say orange wine in this video because that's the word you will see on the labels, but note that the Georgians are watching and they are not super thrilled about it. Now to the story, and it's actually a very great one. To find the origin of orange wine, you have to fly to Georgia. Not the US state, but the country. A small, mountainous, fiercely proud nation in the Caucasus, sitting between the Black Sea and the Caspian, bordered by Russia, Turkey, Armenia, and Azerbaijan. And Georgia, by almost every measure we have, is the oldest winemaking country on Earth. In 2015, archaeologists working at a Neolithic site in eastern Georgia found shards of clay vessels still bearing traces of grape residue. They carbon dated them to around 6,000 years before Christ, 8,000 years ago, give or take. To put that in context, that's roughly 2,000 years before the pyramids. People in this corner of the Caucasus were fermenting grapes when most of the world hadn't invented agriculture yet. And they never stopped. The way they did it then is almost unbelievably the same way the most traditional Georgian winemakers do it today. The secret is a vessel called kevri. A kevri is a giant clay amphora, egg-shaped, sometimes the size of a small car, lined inside with beeswax. And the move that defines Georgian winemaking is this. They take that enormous clay vessel and they bury it in the ground up to the neck. The mouth of the kevri sits flush with the cellar floor. Why bury it? Temperature. The Earth is near perfect natural climate control. Cool in summer, warmer in winter, always stable. The wine inside ferments and ages at exactly the temperature the soil dictates, no thermometers, no air conditioning, just clay and dirt and patience. And into that cavity, the Georgians pour their crushed white grapes with the skins, with the seeds, sometimes with the stem. They seal it, they walk away, and then the wine ferments on the skins for weeks, then continues macerating for months, often through the entire winter. When they finally open it in spring, what comes out is deep amber, tannic, savory, alive, structured, a wine totally unlike anything modern winemaking produces. Georgia has something like 525 native grape varieties. The whites that matter for amber wines are Rakatsitili, Kisi, and Msave. And in 2013, UNESCO officially recognized the Kevri winemaking method as intangible cultural heritage of humanity. 8,000 years, one method officially declared a treasure of the species. That's where this whole story begins, and for nearly all of those 8,000 years, this is just how wine was made. Let's bring this into the modern day and walk through how orange wine is actually made. It's beautifully simple. Step 1. Harvest. White grapes, picked ripe. Any white grape can be used, though some respond better than others. Aromatic, tannic-skinned grapes like Ribolla Gialla, Pinot Gris, Gewürztraminer, Sauvignon Blanc make particularly interesting orange wines. Step 2. Crush. Lightly. You're not pressing hard, you just want to break the skins so the juice and the skins can mingle. Step 3. The choice. This is where the winemaker decides the whole personality of the wine. They put the crushed grapes, juice, skins, seeds and sometimes stems into a vessel. That vessel can be a clay cavity, this is a traditional choice, or it can be oak barrels, stainless steel, concrete eggs, even plastic. Different vessels give different results. Step 4. Fermentation and maceration. The natural yeast on the skins start the fermentation. The juice slowly turns into wine while still in contact with everything else. And here is the variable that defines the style. Time. A few days of skin contact gives you a gentle, lightly textured orange wine. Barely amber, easy to drink. A few weeks and you're getting structure, real tannin, deeper color, and 3 to 6 months, full cavity style, and you are at the extreme end, deep amber, intensely tannic, hugely complex, built to age for decades. Step 5, press and age. Eventually the wine is pressed off its skins, and then it ages, often in large neutral wood casks, for months or years before bottling. The other thing to know is that orange winemaking very often overlaps with the natural wine movement. Most orange wines are made with wild native yeasts, with minimal sulfites and with as little intervention as possible. But it's important to understand orange wine and natural wines are not the same thing. You can absolutely make a clean, low intervention, sulfur-added orange wine. It's a technique, not a philosophy, and we'll come back to this. If orange wine is so ancient and so universal, why hadn't most of us ever heard of it until about 10 years ago? Because in the 60s and the 70s, modern winemaking essentially killed it. The new gospel was stainless steel, cultured commercial yeast, sterile fermentation, temperature-controlled fermentation. White wine was supposed to be pale, crisp, neutral and consistent. Pinot Grigio, light, clean, almost flavor-free, became the global standard for what a white wine was meant to be. In that world, a amber-colored, tannic, savory, oxidative tasting white wine was an embarrassment, a mistake, something your grandfather made because he didn't know any better. So all across Europe, in Italy, in Slovenia, in parts of France, the old skin contact traditions were quietly abandoned. Almost everywhere except Georgia, because Georgia, under Soviet rule, was a backwater of mass volume production for the Russian market. But in the family cellars, in tiny village, the old cavity tradition simply never stopped. The grandfathers kept making it the way grandfathers always had. And that's where, in the 1990s, two stubborn winemakers came looking. The setting is a tiny village called Oslavia of about 600 people, perched on the Italian-Slovenian border. The border literally runs through the vineyard. Most of the families here are ethnic Slovenians living in Italy, Slavic surnames, Italian passport, an identity that's been jumbled by 100 years of redrawn border. And by the 1980s, this region was making clean, modern, technically perfect white wines and frankly, fairly boring ones. But two men in Oslavia had enough. Stenko Radikon and Josko Gravner. Both already successful, established and respected winemakers. Both, by the early 1990s, deeply frustrated. As Gravner himself put it years later, the wine had become technically perfect and spiritually dead. So they started looking backwards. They asked the old people in the village how their grandfathers had made wine. And the answer came back, long skin contact. Big old wooden casks, wild yeast, patience. Stenko Radikon went first. In 1995, he made his first Ribolla Gialla, a local thick-skinned white grape, with extended skin maceration. The wine was amber. It was tannic. It looked nothing like anything modern. People thought he had lost his mind. And Josko Gravner went even further. In the late 1990s, he traveled to Georgia and saw the Kevri tradition firsthand, and it broke his brain in the best way. He came home and started importing actual Georgian Kevri to Italy, having them shipped across Europe and buried in a cellar in Oslavia. From the 2001 vintage onwards, every wine Gravner made was fermented in a Georgian clay vessel buried in Italian soil. It built a tiny piece of ancient Georgia in Friuli. For years, almost nobody bought their wine. Critics hated it, restaurants wouldn't stock it, and they were both, by their own accounts, very nearly broke. And then, slowly, the world caught up. Other producers in the village followed, the natural wine movement found them, sommeliers started talking, and the British importer David Harvey coined the term orange wine in the early 2000s. And by 2015-2016, the style had exploded onto wine lists from New York to Tokyo. Stenko Radikon died in September 2016, the same year the boom became impossible to ignore. His son Sasha runs the winery now, and the wines are some of the most sought-after natural bottlings in the world. Gravner is still working, still using his buried Georgian Kivri. So when you order a glass of orange wine tonight, this is the chain you're sipping at the end of. An 8,000-year-old Georgian tradition, kept alive through Soviet decades by family cellars, picked up in the 1990s by two angry winemakers in a tiny border village, and carried into the world by a new generation of sommeliers who needed something genuinely new to put on their list. Quick break, if you like this story and you're actually learning something about wine, I'm super happy. We have a full course about wine, the link is in description. It's called Wine 101 and it will give you all the basics about wine to really enjoy it. And if you want to take your knowledge a bit further, we have wine maps like the one you are seeing behind me. We are selling them all around the world, we are shipping worldwide. You can shop them on our website. I also put the link in description. I hope to see you there. Now that is said, let's get back to it. Alright, practical bit, what does this stuff actually taste like? The honest answer, completely unlike any white wine you've had. And depending on the bottle, anywhere from, oh that's lovely, to, oh god, that's a lot. You need to expect dried fruit, apricot, orange peel, dried apple, nuts like walnut, almond, savory nuts like black tea, dried herbs, salted caramels, sometimes honey or beeswax. Texture-wise, and this is the surprise, you'll feel a tiny grip on your gums, exactly like a red wine. That's the skin contact talking. The big shift you have to make in your head is this. Most white wine is built around freshness and acidity. Orange wine is built around texture and tannin. It's a white wine that drinks like a red wine. Lighter orange wines are gentle introductions. Hardcore Kevri orange wines, with months of skin contact, are intense, almost meditative, and not for sipping casually. You need to serve it slightly warmer than a regular white. Fridge cold actually mutes everything you came for. So cellar temperature, around 12 to 14 degrees Celsius, is the sweet spot. Here is where orange wine genuinely shines, is for food pairing. Because it has both the aromatic complexity of a white wine and the tannic structure of a red, it can handle dishes that murder ordinary white wines. For example, Indian and South Asian curries, orange wine handles spice and aromatics in a way that almost no other wine does. Moroccan tagines, Ethiopian foods, Korean barbecue, Sichuan dishes, anything with bold spice, fermented elements, or sweet and savory interplay. Hard-aged cheeses like Parmesan, aged Gouda, aged Gruyère, charcuterie, mushroom dishes, roasted chicken, even some lighter red meats. The food sweet spot is roughly anywhere the dish is too aromatic for red, but too rich or spicy for white. Orange wines slide right into that gap. One quick myth buster before we land. Orange wine and natural wine get used almost interchangeably, and they shouldn't be. Natural wine is a philosophy. Minimal intervention, native yeast, no additive, little or no added sulfite. Orange wine is a technique. White grapes fermented on their skins. There is a huge overlap. Most orange wines producers are natural wine minded, but you can absolutely make a clean, sulfur-stable, conventionally vinified orange wine, and plenty of producers actually do. It matters because some people try one funky natural orange wine, find it weird, and decide orange wine isn't for me. That's like trying one extreme version of any style and writing off the whole thing. If your first orange wine had barnyard funk or felt unstable, that was the natural wine part, not the orange part. So try a cleaner one and it will be a completely different experience. So where to start? You have 3 paths. For your first bottle, you can go gentle, look for an orange wine with only a few days or a few weeks of skin contact. They are easier on the palate. Then you can go deeper and hunt a bottle from Friuli, from the Slovenian border, like the original or the modern revival. Expect something bigger, more texture, more challenging, and ideally drink them with food. And if you want to go all the way back, you can find a Georgian amber wine from Kakheti, Rakasteri or Kisi made in Kevri, and you will be tasting essentially what people were drinking 8,000 years ago. The honest takeaway from that is that orange wine is not for everyone, and that's fine. Some people love the texture, the depth, the unfamiliarity, the story. Others find it too tannic, too oxidative, too far from what they want from a white. Both are valid, but you owe it to yourself to try it at least once, preferably from a good producers, served not cold and with food. 8,000 years of human beings making wine this way, the least we can do is taste it. If you've learned something out of this video, do me a favor, hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. Once again, we have an academy in which you can learn everything about wine. I will put the link in the description. I see you either in one of our courses or in the next video. See you soon.